All right, it's 11 a.m. Eastern time here in Tampa Bay. And you know what time that means? That means it's time for us to get back to work. We got to roll up the sleeves. We got to get ourselves ready to go for tonight's NBA slate. We've got, I think, 9 NBA games. Maybe it's 8. Anyway, medium-sized NBA slate. Not small, not large. We're going to dig into points, rebounds, assists, and three-point makes using the tools over at props.cash. If you're not signed up for props.cash yet, well, it's revolutionizing the way that I do player prop research. You can get the link for props.cash down in the description of this video. And our player prop reference site here is going to be PrizePicks. PrizePicks.com, promo code Curry, get you a 100% instant deposit match all the way up to $100 on your first deposit. And it's real simple. You pick anywhere from 2 up to 5 players. You choose your favorite players, you choose your favorite props, and you choose whether they're going to go over or under. They got everything from points, rebounds, assists, and three-point makes to fantasy points. So lots of different ways to play, lots of different sports out there if you're not into NBA. But go ahead, check it out, prizepicks.com. Get down with the get down. Good morning to everybody. We've got Ben up in the chat, Alan up in the chat, Ozzy. What's happening, Ozzy? Sheriff all the way up in here. Howdy, everyone. Howdy back to you, Sheriff. So, yeah, we're going to start digging into this, changing the format up a little bit. I'm going to try and do a hard stop at 12 o'clock. That means 1 full hour of player prop talk. They've been going for an hour and a half. There's been millions and millions of questions flooding in every day, more and more and more. I'm going to try and get to as many as humanly possible, but I heard some feedback from some of you guys. You were like, hey, we tune in to hear what your favorite plays are. We tune in to see you do the research on some of these picks. The last video, Friday's video, we had a lot of picks that were submitted early on in the stream, and a lot of them just didn't look very good to me. I don't know if they hit or didn't hit, but the research just didn't look like they were strong plays. So we're going to try and stick to a different format for about the first 20 to 30 minutes. I'll give you a few plays that look good according to the research on props.cash, and then we'll dive in a little further and take some of your questions from chat. So feel free to also use Super Chat. If you guys really have a hard pressing question that you want answered, Super Chat's going to be your best friend so that you can get your question elevated above the rest so that it stands out from everyone else. And plus it helps support me as a content creator. So definitely think about using Super Chat. Speaking of support, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. Make sure that you have liked this video. We've done well at going 100 or more likes in the last few live streams. Let's keep the momentum rolling. I think we could absolutely do it. So I'm taking the over on 99.5 likes once again. So with that in mind, all those announcements out of the way, let's go ahead and start taking a look at tonight's slate. Starting things off, 7 p.m. Eastern time, the New York Knicks at the Philadelphia 76ers. For New York, Kemba Walker is a game time decision. That's going to be one to definitely keep an eye out on. For Philadelphia, Danny Green's going to be a game time decision. Ben Simmons is out. Apparently the Boston Celtics have interest in Ben Simmons. And according to Number Fire here, Tobias Harris also out. So some pretty big injury news from that game to keep an eye on. At 8 p.m., we've got the Brooklyn Nets at the Chicago Bulls. This should be a fun game. For the Brooklyn side, Johnson's a game time decision. We got Kyrie Irving out, Claxton out, and then for Chicago, Williams and White are both out. 8 p.m., Minnesota T-Wolves at the Memphis Grizzlies. We've got Naz Reid and D'Angelo Russell, both game time decisions for Minnesota. We've got Williams and Brooks, both on the injury report for Memphis. Moving it down to 8:30, New Orleans Pelicans at the Dallas Mavericks. Brandon Ingram, game time decision. He's missed the last couple of games. We've got Jones and we've got Zion Williamson, obviously continues to sit out for the New Orleans Pelicans. And then for the Dallas side, we've got Maxi Kleber. He has already been ruled out. Now 9 p.m. brings us to the Miami Heat at the Denver Nuggets. For the Miami side, Okpala, Strus, and Oladipo all on the injury report for Denver. Jamal Murray, game time decision. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be out. So that's a pretty big one for the Denver Nuggets. Probably bumps up to guys like Will Barton, maybe Aaron Gordon. Some of those guys will probably get some more minutes and more usage. 10 p.m. Atlanta Hawks at the Golden State Warriors. We got Kevin Huerter, Okongwu also on the injury report for the Atlanta Hawks. For the Golden State Warriors, Danny Green, James Wiseman, Andre Iguodala, all game time decisions. Klay Thompson continuing to sit out for Golden State, but from what I'm seeing, he's coming really close to returning back to this lineup. Phoenix at Sacramento tips off at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Dario Saric, DeAndre Ayton, both out for Phoenix. So you're going to see more JaVale McGee for the Phoenix Suns at center. And then that brings us to the last game, the late night hammer, 10:30 p.m. The Charlotte Hornets at the struggling 5-5 Los Angeles Lakers. Long list of injuries to look out for on the Lakers side. Kendrick Nunn, Mason, Doumbouya, if I said that right, Wayne Ellington, Anthony Davis, all game time decisions. And then ruled out already LeBron James, Horton Tucker, and Trevor Ariza. So lots of news, lots of games to be on the lookout for. So definitely keep your eyes peeled as we get closer to lock or tip off. You're going to want to make sure that you're keeping up with all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and dive into Props.Cash. $19.99 per month to get access to all sports on Props.Cash. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet. It's going to make your player prop research go that much quicker, that much easier, allowing you to get to the more important things like evaluating the numbers rather than having to dig up all the numbers. They already do that for you, make it a lot easier on you. So good morning to everybody. We're up to 40 viewers, 5 minutes into the stream. Appreciate you all joining. Good morning to Josh, Jared, Anthony. Good morning to you too. AJ, Alan, James. Thank you guys for joining in. Sinjin. He says, let's get some winners on this ugly NBA card. Luke, what's happening, Luke? Kevin, what's going on, Kevin? That's right. Yeah, I got my Magic hat on because the Magic somehow beat the Jazz. And I'll tell you how they did it. It was Cole Anthony. Cole World. 33 points, I think, last night. Huge game for him. He's a rising star, guys. I love me some Cole Anthony. It'll be interesting to see once Markelle Fultz comes back how the dynamic changes on the Orlando Magic. But enough about that. Let's look at some of these hit rates here for points. Top of the list, we've got Desmond Bane at 15.5 points, currently sitting at almost a 78% hit rate to start the season. Now, interesting enough, he's a minus 124 currently to go under 15.5 points. Let's see if we got Desmond Bane up on PrizePicks. Doesn't look like they've got Bane up just yet. What about Aaron Gordon? Because we talked about Michael Porter Jr. possibly sitting out for the Denver Nuggets. Looks like he's already been ruled out, actually. So let's talk AG. He's at 11 points. We're getting him at 11.5 on your various sports books out there. But so far, a 66.7% hit rate. Currently a minus 122 to go under. So with Michael Porter Jr. out of the lineup, maybe Aaron Gordon soaks up some of that usage, gets a few more shots, and maybe he ends up being a good play to go over his point prop. So let's dig into it. Miami Heat at Denver Nuggets tonight should be a fun game to watch. We're here on Props.Cash if you're just joining in. Now we've got a full 10-game sample that we could take a look at. So that's the beauty of Props.Cash. As more and more games are played, that information is imported into Props.Cash, leading to better, more accurate numbers here. So we no longer have to rely on games from last season. We could look at a larger sample size here, a 10-game sample size, and have a better analysis or look at how things might shape up here for AG. So you can see, guys, at 11.5 points, he's averaging 11.6 in his last 5, 12.2 over the course of the season, and he's gone over in 6 out of 9 games. Most of these games were with Michael Porter Jr. in the lineup. Now tonight he's expected to sit out, so maybe this is a good situation here for Aaron Gordon. I mentioned earlier, currently a minus 122 to go under. Even if we move the slider from 11.5 down to 11, which is where he's at on PrizePicks, not a lot changes, right? So it pretty much stays the same hit rate, so on. Let's look at this matchup against the Miami Heat. They are second in points allowed, first in field goals allowed, 25th in three-pointers allowed. They allow 13 three-pointers per game, 6th in three-point percentage allowed at 31% three-point field goal percentage, and 24th in free throws allowed. And they rank just 15th in power forward defense. So there's definitely some weak spots here. The highlights being the three-pointers allowed, the free throws allowed, and the power forward defense. That's kind of their weak spots if you look at these numbers here. And it looks like Props.Cash has actually updated this dashboard. So if you look at the right-hand side here, you get a value now for these rankings. So it's not just a ranking for points allowed second, but you also get a number. They're allowing about 100.2 points per game for this instance. So another great reason to love Props.Cash. They're constantly innovating, improving, and updating the site. So love to see that. Now let's go down and look at Aaron Gordon's minutes. He's averaging about 28.2 minutes in his last 5 games. Minutes have actually ticked down a little bit at 26.2 over the last 10, but over the full course of the season, about 29 minutes. You got to look at the different game lengths, 5, 10, and full season. So you go down here, look at his field goal attempts, all over the place, right? Some games attempting just 6, 5, 7. Some games as high as 14, 13. So on average, 8.6 in his last 5, 8.2. So safe to say he gets about 8 shots typically. But with Michael Porter Jr. out, I'm saying he's probably going to be in that double-digit field goal attempt range, at least 10 attempts tonight. Moving down, 3-point attempts, not taking a ton of threes. The highest being 6 that he's taken in one game, and the lowest being 1, but typically he's attempting about 3.2. Again, I expect this number to kind of be on the rise. So kind of gives you an idea on Aaron Gordon tonight and where his points are. We're getting a little bit of a value, being that he's at 11 instead of 11.5 like on most sports books. But let's go ahead, pull up a projection here. For that, we're using NumberFire, totally free site. Numberfire.com. You could go and access those for yourself. All you need is a Gmail account, but they got it projected for 12.2 points. So pretty decent hit rate, sitting right around 70% hit rate. No Michael Porter Jr. and a good projection here of 12. So matchup's a little iffy, but this might be one to roll the dice on. So there you have it. So let's go ahead and look at some of these other props here. Ben saying Aaron Gordon may be a trap. He only had 9 points last game, and Michael Porter Jr. only played 7 minutes. So there you go, Ben, dropping some little nuggets down here. So we'll keep that in mind, Ben. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you to the 57 viewers who are joining us this morning. If you haven't liked this stream yet, go ahead and do so now. As I mentioned at the top of the show here, I'm taking the over on 99.5 likes because you guys have been hitting 100 or more likes in the last several streams, and I think you could do it again. Let's run it back on this Monday morning and start the week off right. So we talked about one over, and that was Aaron Gordon's points. Let's talk about an under now for a points prop. Let's go down the list here to props.cash. We've got Nikola Vucevic at 17.5 points, sporting just an 11% hit rate, meaning he's only covered 17.5 points 11% of the time. Not a very high success rate. Currently, he is a minus 114 to go over 17.5 points. Let's see if we have Vucevic up on the board yet for this slate. We do. They've got him at 16.5 though, so this could be a tricky number. PrizePicks already taking kind of the lower road, knowing that Nikola Vucevic hasn't covered 17.5 points very often. They went ahead and decided to take a 16.5 number on Vuce. So let's dig into it, because this could be one that could trick people, could trap people. Brooklyn Nets versus Chicago Bulls. This is going to be must-see TV, in my opinion. Two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, 17.5, guys, you see a sea of red here on the last 10 games for Nikola Vucevic. And it's no coincidence that I'm talking about a couple of former Magic players. Yeah, maybe there's a little bias in there, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Vucevic, but there also happen to be high hit rate or low hit rate in this case and could make for good plays. So yeah, overall 12.8 points per game, averaging less than 13 points per game. In fact, he's only covered this number once, and it was against the New York Knicks, where he dropped 22 points back on October 28th. So I mentioned that PrizePicks has him up at 16.5, right? He's at 17.5 on your sports books out there. Now at 17.5, people are taking the over more than the under. Minus 114 over, minus 108 under. But let's see what happens when I slide this down to 16.5. So you get an extra game that pops up green, meaning he covered in that game as well. And that was against Toronto. We know Toronto, not a very good team on the interior. So overall, his hit rate at 16.5, just 2 for 9, 22%. Now, moving it down here, looking at this matchup against Brooklyn, you see a lot of red here for Brooklyn, meaning that that is not good for Nikola Vucevic, which is probably another reason why PrizePicks is taking the 16.5 instead of the 17.5. If you can get him at 17.5 on a different side, I highly recommend you seriously consider taking the under here. At 16.5, got a little bit of a tougher decision to make here with Vuce. Now, Brooklyn, they rank 9th in points allowed, 4th in field goal percentage allowed, 5th in three-pointers allowed, 8th in three-point percentage allowed, 12th in free throws allowed, and in terms of defending opposing centers, 13th. So yes, a lot of red and even some yellow, but no green, meaning this should not be an easy matchup for Vuce. This should not be a plus matchup for Vuce. For me, I'm still leaning on the under for 16.5 points. If you look at his minutes, healthy run of minutes here in his last 5, 35.2 minutes per game. So he's seeing the court quite a bit, but he's playing alongside of DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball. So, a lot of guys who like to shoot the basketball. So less basketballs for Nikola Vucevic to shoot. But on average, in his last 5 games, he's averaging about 13 field goal attempts per game. You could see the lowest he's ever shot is 7 field goal attempts, the highest being 21. So, kind of all over the place with his field goal attempts. You can see that on his charts there. And for a big guy, he does attempt a decent amount of threes, averaging about 5 3-point attempts per game in his last 5 and about 4 in his last 10. So he is going to take some threes, doesn't make them at a high clip, 25%, 60% being the very best. Some games, 0%, 0 for 2. So there you have it for Nikola Vucevic. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection on his points, though. I think so far, I would say that I'm leaning toward the under based on what I'm seeing here. They've got him at 16.7 points over on Number Fire. So this is going to be a really, really close one, right? 16.5 on PrizePicks, 16.7 on the Number Fire projections, if you believe in those. So if you can get him at 17.5 out there somewhere else other than PrizePicks, I would say run over there, get that number, take the under. But at 16.5, it's going to be a little bit closer. I would still probably lean toward the under, though, just based on what I'm seeing on Vucevic. Thank you to the 55 viewers that are tuning in, guys. I appreciate you dropping in and spending a few minutes with me this morning. We've already talked about 1-point prop that we like possibly going over on, 1-point prop that we possibly like going under on. So let's go ahead and move on to the next category, which will be assists. So we're going to look at some assist props. Not a ton of them up on PrizePicks right now. We've got 12 up on the PrizePicks board at the moment. And of course, they're not going to give us the high hit rate guy, Zach LaVine for the Chicago Bulls. He is not up on the board, but if you're playing somewhere else and you can get Zach LaVine at 3.5 assists, he's at a 66.7% hit rate. Jimmy Butler's another guy who's been doing a pretty good job at covering his assist prop. 5.5 assists, 66.7% hit rate, but they're currently taking the under. And by they, I mean the betting public, minus 120 to go under. Oh, what do you know? We got some more assist props that just popped in, it looks like. So let's go ahead and talk about Jimmy Butler, though, at 5.5 assists, since we do have him up on the PrizePicks board. We'll dig into that one, and we'll go back to that game, the Miami Heat and Denver Nuggets. So all you do here on props.cash, you kind of just dial it in. You choose the player prop category, in this case assists. Then you could even filter out by game. So I've got Miami versus Denver pulled up. Click on the player. Then you got to make sure that you're also dialed in here at the top of this player prop card. So taking a look here at Jimmy Butler at 5.5, he's covered in 6 out of his last 9 games. That's a 67% cover rate. Not bad whatsoever. Now his averages, not so good. 5.2 assists per game average over that 5 game span, and then 5.2 over the 9 game span. So he's averaging less assists than he's projected for on PrizePicks today, but just barely, right? So he's had some games where he's only dropped 2 assists. Those are against Orlando, 2 against Boston. Comes up short here against Charlotte, barely missing the over by 1 assist. But I would consider these 2 assist games to be more like outliers. If you look at the whole picture here, his last 9 games, more often than not, he's up there around that 5, 6, even 7 assist range. So going over on this prop, I think, is a better way to look at it. Now, if you go down and look at Denver, they're 11th in terms of assists allowed per game. They're giving up a little over 21 assists, almost 22 assists per game. So if you expect Jimmy Butler to have the ball in his hands a lot here, and if you expect his teammates to make a lot of shots, then going over on this prop could make some sense. Now, I would caution you that the total on this game is just 204.5. That's a very low total. To put it in perspective, there was a game the other night, the Sacramento Kings and Charlotte Hornets, that had a 230.5 total. So it was about 30 points higher than this one right here. So I typically like targeting overs on games where it's going to be a high point total, and I know the game isn't going to blow out. That's just kind of a strategy that I look for. So definitely keep that in mind. This game looks to be a pretty low total, although the spread is just 2 points, so it should stay close and go the full distance here. About 35 minutes per game for Jimmy Butler as far as on-court time, so kind of gives you an idea how much PT Jimmy Butler's getting. And then I'm going to do my part here and give you an assist projection. 6.6 is his projected assist number according to Number Fire. So they like him to go over 5.5. And I definitely could see a situation or scenario where Jimmy Butler ends up with 6 assists in this game. So there you go. Jimmy Buckets. We're not looking for buckets, though. We're looking for assists from him if you're planning on taking the over. So we talked about an over. Let's go ahead and go to an under on today's slate. Draymond Green at 8.5 assists. He is not currently up on the PrizePicks board. So once again, guys, PrizePicks knows what they're doing. They're mitigating damage, we'll say, by not putting some of these high hit rate and low hit rate assist props up on the board. So if you could get Draymond Green at 8.5 dimes on your favorite sportsbook or other site that you like to play on, I can't blame you for going over there and choosing this player prop and going under with just an 11% hit rate. Now he's currently a minus 144 to go under 8.5 assists. So gives you an idea, right? You should definitely be considering the under, and I can understand, once again, why PrizePicks won't put this one up. Another one with a low hit rate is Luka Doncic at 8.5 assists. He is not currently up on the board, but again, if you could get him at 8.5 somewhere else, 22% hit rate, I would say jump all over that. Excuse me, allergies. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. Let's talk about Seth Curry because he is up on the board. At 2.5 assists, he's got just a 30% hit rate. 2.5 dimes, right? You don't think of Seth Curry as a guy like his brother who's getting a lot of assists. At 2.5 assists, 30% hit rate. Currently is a minus 122 at 2.5 to go under. So let's go ahead and dig into this Seth Curry prop while PrizePicks decides if they want to load it up or not. So looking at his last 10 games, guys, he's got a 3 out of 10 hit rate. So just 3 games where he's gone for at least 3 assists or more. Not good whatsoever. He hit 3 against OKC, 5 against Portland, 3 against Chicago. Overall, averaging 1.8 assists per game, 1.8 in his last 10, 2.4 in his last 5. So you're seeing a little bit of an uptick in his last 5 games for his assist numbers. They're creeping up closer to that 2.5 mark that he set at today. Already mentioned, minus 122 to go under 2.5. Let's look at the matchup against the Knicks. We know the Knicks are a pretty tough team this year. 27th, though, in assists allowed per game. They're giving up almost 26 assists per game, guys. So, although he doesn't have a very high hit rate at 2.5 assists, the Knicks do give up a ton of assists. So this is a plus assist situation for Seth Curry and the rest of this Philadelphia 76ers team. In terms of minutes, 33 minutes per game over his last 5. And let's go ahead and pull up a projection on this assist prop for Seth Curry and his little 33% hit rate. So they've got him projected at 3.1 assists. So this one could be deadly, could be dangerous. Just be careful with Seth Curry. I mentioned low hit rate, but this is a plus matchup in terms of assists for Seth Curry. So just got to be careful with this one. This thing still hasn't loaded yet on PrizePicks. Maybe PrizePicks is in the middle of uploading some more player props for us to talk about. I don't know. Anyway, we talked about a couple of assist props that look good for overs or unders. Let's go ahead and move it over to rebounds and take a look at those. So at the top of the heap here, we've got Duncan Robinson with a pretty high hit rate at 2.5 rebounds. He's been covering in about 78% of the games that he's played in this season. Duncan Robinson, I would imagine, is probably not on the PrizePicks board, and no, it doesn't look like it. Lonzo Ball, 4.5 rebounds, also at around 78% hit rate. He's currently a minus 144 to go over. They've rounded him up to 5 rebounds, but let's go ahead and talk about him anyway at 5 boards. Because at the very least, I see this being a push situation based on these game logs. At the very worst, he goes for 4 rebounds, which most of the time he gets at least 5, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. But let's dig into Lonzo Ball's rebound prop here. Again, Brooklyn at Chicago. This should be a very fun game. Let's make sure we have the rebounds pulled up here on props.cash. If you guys want to check out props.cash, go down to the link below. Props.cash is the way to go to do your player prop research. Definitely check it out. So at 4.5 rebounds, you're seeing a cover rate of 78%. So in 7 out of his last 9 games, guys, he has gone over 4.5 rebounds. But when we crank this up from 4.5 to 5, you see a lot of the green turns gray. Now that means gray means push or tie, in other words. So he's hit 5 or more of these rebounds, let's say in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of his last 9. So there's been only a couple of games where he's went under 5 rebounds against Detroit and against Toronto, but overall 5.4 rebounds per game, averaging slightly more than 5, and then 5.6 over the course of this 9-game stretch. So let's move it down here. Let's look at Brooklyn. You're looking at rebounds allowed here, 17th. They allow over 45, almost 46 rebounds per game. Offensive rebounds allowed, middle of the pack in terms of offensive boards, giving up about 10 offensive rebounds per game. Defensive rebounds allowed, they rank 17th, giving up almost 36 defensive rebounds per game. Point guard defense, they rank 5th. Not really so impactful, though, when we're talking about boards. Game total here, 216.5, so not a terrible total in terms of like being a low total, but it's not super high either at like 225, 230. So I still think this is enough of a total though for us to take an over here on Lonzo Ball. Getting a good amount of minutes though, 34 minutes per game, and yeah, I think that's, oh, they added a new chart, offensive and defensive rebounds. That's pretty cool. So you can kind of see the offensive and defensive rebounds now on Prop.Cash. They're always adding something new. Every time I log into the site, I feel like there's an update or a change of some kind that are happening here. So we'll go to Number Fire. Let's pull up a projection for Lonzo Ball and these rebounds. They've got him at 5.3 boards, putting him slightly over 5, but still closer to 5 than 6. So I could understand if you wouldn't want to take the over on this particular player prop. But I think at the very least, guys, it ends up being a push situation, which isn't the end of the world, right? Pushes on PrizePicks, they still pay out, but they don't pay out quite as much. So we talked about an over that looked good. Let's go down the line here and talk about a rebound prop that looks like a good underplay. Joel Embiid at 9.5 boards, hitting at just 22%. He's currently a minus 114 betting favorite to go under this prop. So let's get into Joel Embiid a little bit because we don't talk about Embiid a whole lot. His game logs, you can see at first glance, just a 2 out of 5 hit rate in his last 5 games. So we got to talk about Embiid a little bit more here and see if going against this tough New York Knicks front court will be a good thing for Joel Embiid or a bad thing for his rebound. Should we be going over or under? So at 9.5 rebounds, guys, you could see over the course of the season, 9.4 is his average, averaging slightly below 9.5. Now in his last 5, his rebound numbers are up 11.2. Now a lot of this 11.2 is being bolstered by 2 huge rebound performances, 18 against Detroit, 15 against Chicago. Now, if you look at the whole picture here, you'll see that those are definitely outliers. Most of the time, Embiid has been right around 8, 9, maybe even below, some games with 6 and 5. So I'm not getting too crazy with this particular prop in terms of saying like, oh, we need to fade it or, oh, we need to take the over. Because against New York back on October 26th, he had just 26. He had just 6 rebounds. 6 rebounds puts him well under 9.5. So we do have a previous game log to consider with Embiid versus the Knicks. Now, in terms of their defense, rebounds allowed, they rank 19th, giving up about 46 rebounds per game total. Offensive rebounds allowed, they rank 19th, giving up about 10 offensive boards. And then defensive rebounds, they rank 18th, giving up over 35, almost 36 rebounds per game. They rank 23rd against centers in terms of defending them. Not too worried about that for this rebound prop. Game total sitting at 211.5 with a 4.5 point spread. So not a super high game total, but the spread is a competitive one, meaning I don't expect this one to really blow out. We go down here and we look at the minutes for Embiid. He's averaging about 32 minutes per game in his last 5. That's up from the 28 minutes per game he was getting over the course of his last 10 games. And then you get a quick snapshot here of offensive and defensive rebounds for Joel Embiid. And those are highlighted green for offensive and red for defensive, I believe. So there you go. Let's get you a projection on this Joel Embiid rebound, and then we'll move on to the next and final category, which are 3-point makes. So Embiid, 11.3 is his projected rebound number. That puts him quite a bit more than 9.5. I don't know if I'm trusting it. I don't know if I believe the projections in this case. This might be a hashtag fade the projection situation or spot for me. But you guys kind of have to decide on your own there on this one. 6 rebounds against New York in the last game. Hasn't been covering 9.5 rebounds with much success other than 2 really big monster rebound games, going against a pretty tough front court here in the New York Knicks. So I don't know about that one. Not sure I love taking the over on Joel Embiid. Maybe it's just a fade. Normally, if there's some conflicting information and I don't feel super great about it, it could be a situation where you just go ahead and fade. Other rebound props that have a low hit rate or low cover rate, because hashtag undergang has been hitting for a lot of these props. If you want to go under on some other rebound props, Jimmy Butler at 6.5, just a 22% cover rate. Steven Adams at 8.5, just a 33% cover rate. Nikola Vucevic at 11.5 rebounds, just a 33% cover rate. So there you go. Those are your rebound props. Let's look at some 3-point makes and try to decide which 3-point shooters we want to take overs and unders on tonight. So you'll notice that PrizePicks has already rounded a lot of these up and down. So Will Barton at 2, Steph Curry at 5, Bogdanovic at 2, but Evan Fournier at 2. But we do have a few on here that have not been touched. In other words, that hook, that 0.5, that's called the hook, hasn't been rounded down, hasn't been rounded up yet. So let's see if we could look for some value in some of those. Of course, a high hit rate guy, RJ Barrett's been absolutely on fire for the New York Knicks. After all the bad mouthing I did about him a few streams ago, he has finally started to pick his game up and has been a more consistent scorer. At 1.5 3-point makes, 60% hit rate. We're not getting him on PrizePicks though, unfortunately. Lonzo Ball at 2.5 3-pointers, 55.6% hit rate, currently a minus 142 to go over. Again, he's not on PrizePicks, but if you play somewhere else, maybe you want to snatch that one up. The rest of these guys, not a super high hit rate, guys. Nikola Jokic, rather, 1.5 3-point makes, a 55% cover rate. He's currently a minus 122 to go under, though. So I don't know that I'm liking the overs on really a lot of these 3-point props. Maybe we could go down to the unders and look at guys who haven't been covering. Zach LaVine, 3.5 3-point makes, just 11%. Of course, we're not going to get him on PrizePicks. They know what they're doing over there. Nikola Vucevic, 1.5, just a 22% cover rate. Here's one we could talk about. Will Barton at 2.5, 22.2%. But this could be tricky because we talked about no Michael Porter Jr. for the Denver Nuggets tonight. And on top of that, PrizePicks has done their jobs by taking that 2.5 3-point line and rounding it down to 2, meaning if we do take the under on this, maybe we end up in a push situation. So let's dig into this Will Barton 3-point prop a little bit further and see if we can make heads or tails out of this situation here. Again, Miami at Denver is the matchup tonight. Miami, pretty tough team. No Michael Porter Jr. for the Denver Nuggets side of things, so maybe more shots go up for Will Barton. That's why I kind of say this one could be tricky. You might want to end up taking the over. Despite the low hit rate, maybe going over on this prop is the best way to go if you think he absorbs some of those shots that Michael Porter Jr. will surrender by not being in the lineup tonight. So that's something worth keeping in mind. But in his last 5 games at 2.5 3-point makes, has covered in just 22% of those games. So 2 for 9, not a very good cover rate. The most he's made, 4. The fewest he's made is 0 against Memphis, but typically he's good for at least 1 3-point make. Again, there's only been 1 game where he's blanked out on his 3-point makes, and that was against the Grizzlies. But if we move this from 2.5 down to 2, some of that red goes away and it gets a little friendlier if we want to, think about it that way. Instead of red, it's gray, meaning that there's ties in here or pushes in here on some of these player props. So things improve just a little bit for Will Barton. Now, if we go down here and look at this matchup, the Miami Heat defense, they rank 6th in 3-point field goal percentage allowed. Opposing shooters, 3-point shooters, about 32% 3-point field goal percentage. 3-pointers allowed. This is the total amount of threes they allow per game. Under 14 3-pointers allowed per game. But 25th, that's a bottom 5 team in terms of how many threes, the volume, the amount of threes that they allow per game. And then they rank 5th in shooting guard defense, kind of worth noting. Now this game, again, has a low total, 204.5, not a super high total whatsoever. You're looking at a 2-point spread though, should be a close competitive game. Barton up to about 33 minutes per game, which is an uptick versus his last 10 where he was sitting right around 30 minutes per game. Now in his last 2 games, his 3-point attempts are actually up. 9 threes attempted against Memphis, 8 against Houston. So I do expect him to get more shots. He's just got to knock them down, right? Without Michael Porter Jr. in the game for most of this game here against Houston, I believe, he did shoot 8, but only made 1. So if he's going to shoot that many, we got to get him to make a couple more. But this could be a prop where I end up going over on it with Michael Porter Jr. out. I know they've rounded it down. That's probably because of the low hit rate. That's probably because the money's coming in on the under pretty strong here at a minus 130 at 2.5 3-point makes. But I think you could possibly go over on this one and you end up in a push situation. Let's see if there's any other 3-point props worth talking about. Julius Randle, low hit rate. They're not going to put him up on the board. So PrizePicks is doing their job. I mean, they're really trying to mitigate damage here on a lot of these 3-point props. Jordan Poole, 2.5 3-point makes, sitting at a 33.3% hit rate. Currently, though, a minus 120 to go over against the Atlanta Hawks. So I think that's going to do it. Let's go and answer some questions because I think you guys kind of get an idea that PrizePicks, they're not giving us the juicy props today. They're making it tough on us, right, guys? Most of the time, you'll see a lot of points props. What they'll do on some of these other props is not post quite as many rebounds, not as many assists, not as many 3-point makes. So we might end up having to make some tough decisions on some of these points props with there being so few other props to choose from. But appreciate you guys tuning in. We're up to 67 viewers. If you could all take a moment, leave a like on this video and double check, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. We're about to hit 2,200 subscribers, which would be a fantastic accomplishment. Then I could go from CJ2K, then I was 21 Savage. Now I'll just be Deuce Deuce, I guess. I don't know. You call me what you want to call me. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these questions that you guys have in chat. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. We're up to almost 70 viewers. That's pretty great. That's pretty great. Trae Young over assists. James dropping Trae Young over assists. Let's take a look at Trae Young here. He's at 8.5 assists, which kind of represents a low number in my opinion. You think of Trae Young, at least I do. I think of him always being around 9.5. That's typically where his line's at. Tonight, it's down to 8.5. So let's dig in on props.cash here and find Ice Trae Young and see what his assist props are looking like. I haven't talked a whole lot about this game. Atlanta Hawks at the Golden State Warriors tonight. Should be a fun one. Trae Young versus maybe his mentor, maybe his muse, Seth Curry. So we got Trae Young at 8.5. All right, we got it dialed in here. In his last 10 games, just a 60% hit rate. Not super high, but not super low. It's above 50%. So if you're wanting to take the over on Trae Young, well, I guess that's pretty good news that he's at a 60% hit rate at 8.5. He's currently a minus 114 to go over 8.5. If you look at the averages, those are looking pretty good. 9.2 over his last 5, 9.6 over his last 10, and a 9.6 over the course of this season. So the averages are much higher than 8.5, so he's got that going for him. Now, he does have some games in here where he's went for 7, 6, so little up and down here overall on this assist prop overall this season. But if we look at the Golden State Warriors defense, this isn't looking good for Trae Young. They rank 5th in assists allowed. They're allowing just under 21 assists per game. So that's kind of tough. And point guard defense, they rank 1st in the league in point guard defense. So you don't really think of Golden State as being a tough defensive team, but the numbers tell a different tale. Now, there is 222.5 expected points to be scored between these two teams. So they take the total of the Hawks, the total of the Warriors, they put them together. That's how you get that implied game total of 222.5. And it's looking like a 3-point spread. Golden State 3-point favorites in this one. And if you look at the minutes of this game, 35.6. Trae Young's averaging 35.6 minutes per game in his last 5, about 35 minutes per game over the last 10. So kind of gives you an idea. 35 minutes is what to expect from Trae Young tonight. So let's go pull up a projection on this prop for you. Thank you for dropping this one in the chat, James. We type in Trae Young's name, and he's at 7.6 assists, guys. They don't expect him to go over 8.5. Even if we were feeling a little generous and we wanted to round this up from 7.6 up to 8 assists is still less than 8.5. So that just kind of gives you an idea at, maybe which way you should be looking on this Trae Young assist, or just fade it all together. But this is not a plus assist situation for Trae Young, unfortunately. But thank you for dropping that one, James. I appreciate that. Let's see what else we got in here. Sinjin says, let's get some winners on this ugly NBA card. Yep. If Luke says, if Danny Green and Tobias are both out, Seth Curry might be a good pick to go over. Yeah, that's going to be what it's going to have to kind of come down to, is some injury news, seeing how things shake out later on, closer to that 7 p.m. Eastern time lock or tip-off. If guys are going to be in, guys are going to be out, that's going to open up value on some of these player props. And so you should have a plan in place. If this player is out, then I will go with this player prop, take the over or take the under respectively. So kind of be prepared, think ahead on what your strategy, what your game plan might be if some of these guys sit or if some of these guys don't end up sitting. Thanks for that, Luke. Kevin says Magic somehow beat the Jazz. Yep, Cole Anthony did his darn thing. Sinjin says he likes Nikola Vucevic under points. Yeah, we talked about some Nikola Vucevic. Ben says Aaron Gordon may be a trap. We talked about that already. 9 points in his last game, and Michael Porter Jr. played about 7 minutes in that one. Kevin, Heat three-pointers are high because they help a lot on the dribble penetration. Okay, good to know. We got a Miami Heat fan who knows the team inside and out. There's really no threat on the Nuggets, but Jokic getting doubled by Tucker a lot. So Gordon over should be good. So he's liking the Aaron Gordon over. So we talked about Aaron Gordon over points. Maybe Will Barton over on some of his scoring props or three-point props, because with no MPJ in there, somebody's going to have to step up for these Nuggets. Goat says, did y'all know, proven fact, unders hit on 68% versus overs? Yeah, unders definitely can be a profitable way to take a lot of these player props. If you're not taking unders on player props, you should start considering more unders than you have, especially in the scoring column. So like the scoring, the points player props, or even the three-point makes. Across the league this season, guys, these numbers are down across the league. League-wide, scoring is down, three-point field goal percentage is down, field goal percentage is down. So definitely consider taking some unders on these. Kevin says John Collins. I believe that's who that is. John Collins over points. We could look at some John Collins props. We haven't talked about JC just yet. Atlanta Hawks again take it on the Golden State Warriors tonight. Do they have got John Collins up? They do. They've got him at 14 points. So it looks like PrizePicks has already touched this prop. We're not getting it at the same line that we're getting it at on most of your sports books out there, but that's okay. Sometimes that can work in our favor. Let's dig into this prop a little bit and see what John Collins' points are looking like this season. So if we look at the last 10 games here, we've got 10 games in the game log. He's averaging 16 points per game. And I think PrizePicks is adding more props in here, so that's why things switch like that. But 16 points per game over the course of the season, that puts him obviously over 14, which is his number tonight. But why PrizePicks is probably acting the way that they're doing is because if you look at his last 5, things go really bad here. They get sour for John Collins in terms of wanting to take overs on his scoring. So at 14.5 points, he's only covered this in 1 out of his last 5 games. That's just a 20% cover rate. But let's move it down to the 14 where he's at on PrizePicks. So this bar graph doesn't change a whole lot, but what does change are his averages. His last 5, he's averaging 14.4. So that changed from red to green, meaning he's going over 14 points like he's priced at over on PrizePicks. And he's averaging, again, 16 points per game over the course of the season in his last 10. Minus 124 to go under 14.5 points. Probably another reason why PrizePicks has rounded this point prop down to 14. Looking at this matchup, though, against the Golden State Warriors, they rank pretty good here in a lot of these categories. Not seeing any green, not looking like a plus or favorable matchup for John Collins across the board. They rank 3rd in points allowed, 2nd in field goal percentage allowed, 12th in three-pointers allowed, 3rd in three-point field goal percentage allowed, 15th in free throws allowed, and against opposing power forwards, they rank 12th. So they're a tough defense across the board. Their defensive metrics are fantastic. So this should be a tough matchup for John Collins. So you kind of combine that with how things look over the last 5 games, and you can kind of see why they didn't leave him up at 14.5. They're trying to take the lower number here. And if you are looking to take the under on John Collins, there's a very good chance that this pushes. But so far from what I'm seeing, I'm leaning toward the under on John Collins' points. Looking at his minutes, 32.7, almost 33 minutes per game in his last 5. Field goal attempts over his last 5 are sitting right around 10. You can kind of see things are up and down for John Collins. Not really a consistent score for the Atlanta Hawks. So let's get you a projection on this prop. I think we've talked enough about this one. We kind of get a better idea of which way maybe to go on this. They got it projected for 16.5 points, guys, but I would be careful, man. I would be careful on this one. I don't know that I love this particular prop. His last 5 games, he's just struggled. This matchup, not very good. I don't know. Maybe I just stay away from that one. I don't feel great about it. I look for like the projections, the hit rates, the game logs and everything to kind of align, and it's not really aligning for John Collins. That's why I'm a little gun shy with taking this over or under, but hopefully that helps you out a little bit, Kevin. Thanks for dropping that one. I don't feel super confident in taking John Collins points over though. If you couldn't tell, Darren or Duran, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but tomato, Thank you for dropping Bam Adebayo over rebounds. Let's look at Bam Adebayo. He's been a guy that we've talked about here in previous streams. His rebound prop currently sits at 8.5. Wow, that seems pretty generous, or pretty light, I should say. Generous if we're looking to take the over. If you look at his last 5 games, though, he has covered in 3 out of his last 5. Did not get it done against Boston. Of course, Boston has the likes of Robert Williams, Al Horford, 2 very good rebounders in their own right. Utah, of course, has Rudy Gobert, so he's gone against a couple of very tough interior rebounders, we'll say, for the Boston Celtics and for the Utah Jazz, respectively. See, I hate when they do that. There we go. Let's get him back up on the screen there. So let's look at Bam Adebayo real quick. He's got another kind of difficult matchup here, potentially against the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Vucevic. So let's go ahead and dial things in here. Take a look at this Bam Adebayo rebound prop. See if we should be going over or under. Now, currently the money is definitely in on the over. He's a minus 134 to go over 8.5 rebounds. Let's look at the 10-game view here, because he started off the season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row where he went over 8.5 boards. So it's really just been in his last couple of games where things have kind of fallen off for him. But again, those matchups, those are tough matchups. Averaging 10.8 rebounds in his last 5, 12 rebounds overall for the course of the season. But we talk about tough matchups. He's got another tough one tonight going against this Denver team. They rank 6th in rebounds allowed, 5th in offensive rebounds allowed, and 9th in defensive rebounds allowed. So they're very good. They're a top 10 team across the board in your various rebounding categories. So be careful with taking overs on Bam Adebayo, as tempting as it might seem at 8.4 or 8.5 rebounds. Now, over his last 5 games, averaging about 33 minutes per game, so he's seeing plenty of court time. And then you can get an idea here for his rebound output, both offensive and defensive. The offensive rebounds, if I have this correctly here, are represented in green. The defensive rebounds are represented in red, if I'm doing that correctly. I think I'm doing that correctly. That's a new feature, though. Haven't seen that one yet on PropStatCash. But anyway, let's get you a projection on Adebayo here. According to Number Fire, they've got him going for 9.5 rebounds. So they got him 1 whole rebound over the 8.5 number that PrizePicks has him at. So there you go. If you believe in those projections, sometimes they can be right. Sometimes they're just way wrong. But that kind of gives you an idea on Bam Adebayo. We've got about 13 minutes. We'll just round it. We'll call it 15 minutes to go left on stream. Like I said, I'm going to try and do a hard stop, make this 1 hour for those people that watch the replays. For you guys that are sitting here, it's better to be in as early as you can to try and get those questions in if you have them. But yeah, we'll try and stop this, a hard stop at around 12 o'clock. So anybody who wants to watch it later can do so and not have to sit through an hour and a half. Boston says, if Kemba Walker sits again, do we go back to Derrick Rose over on fantasy points? Well, yeah, if Kemba Walker sits, then you're going to have to go, somewhere else, whether that be RJ Barrett, who's been super hot for New York. You could go back to Derrick Rose. I think that would make a lot of sense. Peyton says, PJ Tucker over 1.5 assists is a lock. PJ Tucker over 1.5 assists. I'm not seeing him up on the PrizePicks board. So let's go ahead and dig in real quick for this one. We won't get too in the weeds for PJ Tucker and his assists. PJ Tucker, one of the newest members of the Miami Heat this season. I'm actually not, I don't have a prop for him up on props.cash. I will refresh though and see what happens. Water. Water is the beverage of choice for today. Make sure you're drinking your water out there, folks. So we're going back to Miami versus Denver. Yeah, I still don't have an assist prop for PJ Tucker loaded in here. Yeah, they don't have a line loaded for him for whatever reason, but you can kind of see he's sitting right around 1 to 2 assists per game. I don't know if he's going to be up on PrizePicks or not, so can't really talk about that one a whole lot. But Peyton says it's a lock. Peyton Benjamin, if you think PJ Tucker over 1.5 assists is a lock, then, maybe it is. Let's see here. Bam over rebounds. Yeah, we talked about Bam's rebounds already. Will Barton assist is a lock, according to Ozzy. We talked a little bit about Will Barton. Will Barton will get his hands on the basketball much more without Michael Porter Jr. in. If you look at the last couple of games here, 4, 7, 7. So that's 3 games in a row where he's went over 3.5 assists, even going back to October 29th, the 5th game back, 6 assists in that one. So overall, guys, 4 out of 5 of his games, he has gone over 3.5 assists. Let's take a look at this one a little bit closer because this could be a good way to go if you are looking at taking over on this prop. So looking at his 10-game sample size, 10-game sample size here, 4.3 assists. That puts him over 3.5. In his last 5 games, that number is actually trending up. So it's going from 4.3 up to 4.8. So things are looking even better. And then if we change this from last 10 to last 5, his hit rate is 80%. 4 out of 5, 80%. So yeah, this could be a very good way to go. He's currently a minus 115 to go over 3.5 assists. The assists allowed by the Miami Heat, they rank 4th. So this is a tough matchup in terms of assists. Top 5 team against assists. They're allowing almost 21 assists per game. We already talked about the game totals, 204.5, pretty low game total overall. Minutes for Will Barton sitting right around 33, but his last 2 games, 40 and 37 minutes respectively. So he's seeing a lot more minutes in the last couple of games. Let's get you a projection on this Will Barton prop, but this could be one of my more favorite plays, so appreciate you dropping that into the chat, Ozzy. 3.2 is his projected assist number. So I'd probably fade the projections in this case, go with more of the historical data, the facts that we have here. And the facts are, he's just been dropping a lot of dimes in his last few games, guys. I like the over on Will Barton assist. I think that is a good way to play. Thanks for dropping that one once again, Ozzy. And thank you to the 86 people that are watching this live stream. If you haven't liked this yet, if you all drop a like on this, that line that I set of 99.5 likes, we'll definitely go over that. There's no way we don't hit if you all like this right now. Just saying. I think we could keep this this momentum going of going over 99.5 likes. Rogelio says he likes John Collins over on points as well. Well, we dug into that one. It didn't look so great. Lackey says he likes John Collins fantasy points over 38. So that could be a good way to go. If you don't want to take John Collins on points, maybe you take John Collins fantasy points. He's at 32.3 projected fantasy points. And in case you didn't know, PrizePicks, they use the same fantasy point scoring as FanDuel. So if you're ever looking at projections for NBA player props on PrizePicks, make sure you're looking at FanDuel projections. Remy says Duncan Robinson under 11 points. He's not shooting threes well. He only goes over if he can hit 3 or more. You're right about that, Remy. Duncan Robinson, heavily dependent on that 3 ball dropping for him. If he's not making threes, then he's not going to go over his 3-point props, and he's not going to go over his points props. So you make a very strong and good point there. Let's see if Duncan Robinson's up on the board here on PrizePicks. He is. He is at 11 points. But he has gone over this number in 3 out of his last 5. Again, if the 3-point balls are falling for Duncan Robinson, then he's going to probably go over this. You figure he gets to the free throw line, maybe he gets an easy layup, and boom, he's over 10, 11 points easily. The projection for Duncan Robinson, they've got him scoring 11.3. So the 11.3, obviously a lot closer than to 11 than 12. I'd probably lean toward the under on this one, but, Duncan Robinson loves shooting the threes. He makes 3 threes, gets a layup, gets a couple of free throws, and he's right there at 11 or 12 points. So this is a one that comes with some risk, let's just say. Sinjin says he does like Bam Adebayo over rebounds. It's going to be another tough rebound situation for Bam. He's had 2 tough ones in a row, Boston, Utah, and then another one tonight against Denver. Maybe he finally bounces back, though. Kenny, let's get some winners. Yeah, man, we're trying to dig up some winners right now. PrizePicks, though, doing a very good job with limiting those high hit rate or low hit rate player props in today's NBA slate. So it's been kind of tough. Not going to lie, it's been kind of tough here so far this morning. Kevin says Butler's going to be guarding Will Barton. Don't see any other guys he's guarding. Well, if Jimmy Butler's going to be on Will Barton, maybe Will Barton's scoring is not the way to go. Maybe we go back to those assists, those 3.5 assists. Maybe Will Barton is forced to pass more, and maybe Aaron Gordon is the beneficiary, and we go over on Aaron Gordon's points. Could be a good way to go if you start thinking about sort of the game script, how things could play out based on matchups and all that. Might want to go Aaron Gordon over points and Will Barton over assists then. Kevin says the Heat do switch a lot. Okay. DeMar DeRozan points, DDR points. Yeah, DeMar DeRozan's points have been hitting, and in fact, they've been hitting so well that PrizePicks has bumped him up to 23.5, which I can't blame him. He was sitting at 20.5. What a juicy, lovely number that was just a few games ago, but that 20.5 is now 23.5, and for good reason. You look at his scoring outputs, 20, 32, 40, 37, and 25 in his last few games, guys. Let's pull up a projection here for DeRozan. DeRozan against Brooklyn tonight projected for about 21.2 points. So they kind of like the under. They like the under in this situation. Let's go to the points. We'll dial in things real quick here. Just a quick little matchup. Look at the matchup here for DeMar DeRozan against this Brooklyn Nets squad. The Nets, a lot of red here. Defensively, they're a good team. They rank 9th in points allowed, 4th in field goal percentage allowed, 5th in three-pointers allowed, 8th in three-point percentage allowed. The only thing really working out here for DeMar DeRozan is the fact that they rank 26th against the shooting guard position. So be careful with this one. Overall, this looks like a very tough matchup for DeMar DeRozan. So I'm a little weary here taking the over. Game total sitting at 216. If that was like a 225 or 230 point total, I'd probably be in on the over a little bit more than I am. CCF says best over on fantasy score. Not sure, buddy. I'm not going to dig into a lot of the fantasy points, unfortunately, but free projections are out there on numberfire.com. You just come to numberfire.com, sign up for a free account, and they've got all these different projections. That's just one of very many sites out there that offer free projections. So you'll have to kind of go and do a little comparative analysis. PrizePicks fantasy points versus like some of these projection sites out there. Zach says James Harden over three-pointers. Let's look at James Harden. He's kind of been struggling, or at least that's my perception. To start the season, he was struggling to make the three ball, but look at his last 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row in which he has gone over 2.5 3-point makes. So we got to look at this matchup here because we're not going to have any projections for James Harden and 3-point makes. So let's go and look at the matchup a little closer here for James Harden against this Chicago Bulls team. We could do that using props.cash. 2.5 3-point makes. He has gone over 8 out of 10. Wow, it's a lot higher hit rate than I thought. 8 out of his last 10, he has gone over 2.5 3-point makes, averaging 3.6 threes, which it shows that he's actually getting better versus his last 10 where he was at 3.1. So he goes from 3.1 over the course of the season to 3.6 in his last 5. So he's hitting a lot more threes. And he's currently sitting at minus 150 on the over at 2.5 3-point makes. Even better, James Harden. This matchup here, Chicago, 25th in 3-point percentage allowed. So they're giving up a very high 3-point field goal percentage, which is good for James Harden. Now, overall, in terms of number of threes allowed per game, they do a good job at limiting how many threes are made. So that kind of works against James Harden a little bit. Also, they rank number 1 in shooting guard defense. But he's taken a lot of threes, about 8 3-pointers over his last 5 games for the course of the season, also sitting right around 8 3-pointers. So he may not get as many makes or as many looks tonight, but if he makes a high percentage of the looks that he does get, then yeah, I think this over looks great. It's a high hit rate here on James Harden in these 3-point makes. Let's see what else we got here. DOMG says, I usually struggle with deciding between plays 2, 3, 4, and flex or power plays. What do you typically go with? Thanks. So there's a number of ways you can kind of approach this, right? Some people, they look at the 2-pick plays and they go power. They want to either triple up or lose everything. If you want to take a more conservative or safe approach and you're okay with doubling up, which if you think about playing on DraftKings or FanDuel, a lot of people enter these cash games. Cash games are typically doubling your money. You could go with 2-pick flex plays. I don't see why that's such a bad thing. You either double up or you could get half your money back if you go 1 for 2, or you just lose it all if you miss on both of them. Now, very rarely do I miss both picks. Most of the time I'm like 1 for 2. And I don't think doubling your money is such a bad thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I know you guys like playing the 2-pick powers, but I'm just saying, if you want to take the slow and steady, slow grind approach and grind up a bankroll, maybe you should be considering more 2-pick flex plays. You get half your money back if you go 1 for 2. You get double your money if you get them both right. No, it's not a 10x payout. No, it's not a 12x payout. But, kind of helps you in terms of mitigating losses, we'll say. So that's just kind of an idea. Three pick plays, probably flex. I hate the payout on it, but at least if you miss one out of those three, you still get a little something back, almost all your money back and then some. So I don't know. Different folks, different strokes. Depends on your bankroll. Depends on how much you're wagering. Depends on what your goals are. You trying to win big tonight? You trying to grind out your bankroll over the course of the NBA season? There's a lot of different ways you could go about it. A couple more minutes here. I'll try and take as many of these questions as I can. But yeah, we're coming to the end. So you guys might want to start using super chat and stuff because I'm just going to go for an hour. I don't want to go for an hour and a half, 2 hours like we have been. I just don't have that kind of time. Steven Adams under rebounds, and we already talked about Pavel. We've already talked about Harden over threes. That looks like a good one. So let's make Steven Adams rebounds the last one we talk about today. Guys, if you have further questions outside of this live stream, you can leave them down in the comments after this video gets posted on YouTube. You could also consider going into Discord and leaving them in the Discord. If you're not a member of the Discord, it's free. You can go and use the free Discord, drop your questions in there. There's also a props.cash bot, an NBA bot, where you could look up hit rates for various player props. So I do encourage you to leave comments or drop comments or questions in the Discord if you have any further ones. But I only have so much time here to moderate the chat, to go over these picks and everything. So we'll make this Steven Adams under rebounds the last one of the day, and then I will let you guys get out of here and go lock in some of these props. We don't have, there we go. We have Steven Adams up at 8.5 rebounds. Obviously, Memphis Grizzlies now no longer with the Pelicans. But if you look at this player prop, he's gone under in his last 5 games, under 8.5 rebounds in his last 5. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this. Minnesota versus Memphis. Steven Adams at 8.5 boards, currently sitting at a minus 130 on the under. And yeah, things have been very difficult for Adams in his last handful of games. His last 6, really, he's gone under 8.5 boards. Started off pretty strong here, 14, 9, and 16. But then since 10-27, it's been tough sledding here for Steven Adams. He's averaging just 6.6 rebounds per game over his last 5 games, 8.8 rebounds per game if you look at the full scope here, the full course of the season. And as I mentioned, minus 130 at cover, or minus 130 at 8.5 rebounds on your favorite sports book. Now against the Minnesota Timberwolves here, they do rank dead last in rebounds allowed. So this is a very plus rebound situation for Steven Adams and the rest of his Memphis Grizzlies teammates. In terms of offensive rebounds allowed, they rank dead last once again, giving up 13 plus offensive rebounds per game. And then defensive rebounds allowed, they rank 22nd, 37 defensive rebounds allowed per game. And then center defense, they rank 18th, just kind of middle of the pack, not very good. Looking at about 216.5 game point total with a 6-point spread. So Memphis 6-point favorites in this one. Adams in his last 5 games, his minutes are sitting right around 24.2. That's a little bit of an uptick versus his last 10 game average. And then you can kind of get an idea of his rebounds overall. 14 total rebounds, 6 of those were offensive. 16 total rebounds, 8 of those were offensive. So that new chart there kind of gives you an idea how his offensive and defensive rebounds have shaped up here recently. So last but not least, we will cap things off here with this Steven Adams rebound projection. They've got him at exactly 8 rebounds tonight. So they like the under. They say that the under trend will continue for Steven Adams, despite the fact that a lot of those rebounding metrics were in his favor, that this is a favorable rebounding situation for Steven Adams. But I appreciate you dropping that one. I appreciate everybody who has tuned in this morning. We've reached a little bit over an hour, but we're trying to keep this right around an hour. So I thank everyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your questions. If you have questions in the future, definitely consider maybe using Super Chat to get those questions elevated and those questions stand out. Plus, Super Chat helps support me as a content creator, allows me to get on stream every morning, continue doing what I'm doing for you guys. Check out PrizePicks if you haven't yet. Promo code Curry gets you that 100% instant deposit match. And if you want to sign up for props.cash, you can do so using the link down below. But I'm out of here, guys. Good luck tonight, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here in the same place. Peace out.